Welcome to Menopause Rescue. I'm Dr. Polly Watson. Midlife women are often caught up in a sea of symptoms. Too often, they're overwhelmed by the lack of support from mainstream healthcare. They're inundated with so-called experts who are selling solutions which may lack credibility. I'm a Menopause Society certified gynecologist with both traditional and functional medicine training. I'm here to guide you through this transition and help you decipher the facts from the fads. Armed with credible information, I hope you are empowered to rescue and restore your health, making the second half of your life your best. Hey, it's Dr. Polly Watson, your host on Menopause Rescue. Today, we're going to talk about breast pain because in the menopause, perimenopausal transition, this is a super common complaint. And oftentimes, there's a really easy solution. So let's dive on in and talk about breast pain. So hopefully, if you're suffering from this, you can get some relief quickly. So I'm just going to go ahead and first get give you a little bit of headspace around this. The good news is that breast cancer usually doesn't hurt. So absolutely, if you feel something new on a self breast exam, you should be seen by a clinician who can do an adequate exam and get you set up with whatever imaging you need. So don't hesitate to get evaluated if you have a concern about something that feels different in your breast. But if you just have pain and you're not feeling anything different, there's several considerations of what might be triggering that and many easy solutions of what you can do to fix it. Okay. So the other thing that unfortunately is fairly common in this transition is weight gain. And a lot of us, as we are transitioning into menopause, are becoming more insulin resistant and it's harder to build muscle. So, those two things put together make it a lot easier for us to put on fat, and we're often gaining some weight. Did you know that when your weight changes by as little as 5 or 10 pounds, you may need to get refitted for a different bra size? How many of us are doing that every time our weight fluctuates 5 or 10 pounds? Most of us probably not. Most of us probably have bras that have been sitting in our drawer for God knows how long, pre-pandemic bras, right? So many times when I'm doing breast exams, I can see where the underwire is smishing into the breast tissue. And I'll often mention to women, hey, just by looking at your skin, I can see that your bra doesn't fit you properly. Whether or not you're having pain, you need to get a larger cup size because it looks like the wire is digging into your body. Poorly fitting bras is a huge, very common reason why women have breast pain. And then, it's embarrassing to go and, have the lady get out the measuring tape and the whole nine. I think it's probably worthwhile if you're not comfortable doing that. Your bra should hold you up from the band underneath your breast, not from the straps itself. And the band shouldn't be riding up in your back. So what I mean by that is if you glance behind yourself in the mirror when you have on your bra, the bra strap across the back should be sitting kind of just around your scapula or your shoulder blades. It shouldn't have this like inverted V shape where it's pulling up in the middle. That's a sign that your bra doesn't fit well. So if your weight's changed, which is pretty common, that can happen, um, go get a new bra and get sized for a bra. Make sure that your cup size is correct because a lot of women are wearing bra sizes that are not correct for them. And that's a huge reason why they have pain. Another reason, which is also unfortunately way too common in this transition, is that women aren't sleeping well. And so, what do we do as working professionals, as moms? We usually resort to caffeine to power through our day when we're feeling sluggish or we can't focus or we're just exhausted from waking up with night sweats or just having poor quality sleep. Well, unfortunately, caffeine makes breast pain worse for a lot of women, and it can take months for that caffeine effect to resolve. So, I love some of these kind of mushroom based coffee alternatives. There's one called Rise, there's one called Mud Water that has a lot less caffeine. I love coffee. I love the taste of coffee. I love the ritual. I love the smell. I live in North Carolina. There's a local roaster called Counterculture that makes a great decaf blend called Slow Motion. It's blended for people who like coffee for the taste, but it doesn't have an appreciable amount of caffeine in it. So that's a really nice option. So you might really want to put if you're noticing pain out of nowhere and you haven't put on weight, you may start asking, hey, have I had a lot more caffeine lately? This happens to me a lot when we travel, particularly if we're traveling someplace where I don't speak the language at all or well. I will often order a coffee and not feel comfortable asking for decaf because I don't have the words and I don't want to be difficult or whatever. And so I remember we went to Germany last spring break, and I knew enough to sort of order a cup of coffee, and that was about it. And I had breast pain for months after that 1 week trip of just having caffeine on vacation. So it can really set things off. What about constipation? So, as one thing to understand is that estrogen is detoxified in our liver and then eliminated through our gut. So we poop out excess estrogen. And kind of an easy way to think about healthy estrogen levels is that you rent them. You don't store, you don't want to hang on to estrogen. You just want to rent it. Unfortunately, as estradiol levels are changing, when women are having less estrogen, they will often have slower gut motility. And we're still learning about how the estrogen changes affect the gut microbiome. So there's still a lot of science that needs to be done here. But we do see as a general trend that as hormones or levels are changing, gut motility often changes and often things slow down. And when stool sits in the descending colon, let's say you're constipated, you can reabsorb estrogen that your liver had labeled to get the heck out of your body. And so you can be recirculating estrogen that your body was really hoping you were going to get rid of. So if you're noticing breast pain, and it's important to kind of also think about what's going on with your gut health. Are you constipated? Are you maybe experimenting with a ketogenic diet where you don't have a lot of fiber and you're eating a lot of animal protein and you're super backed up? That may not be great for your estrogen balance. Obviously pushing fiber, particularly soluble fiber, can really help here. Flax is fantastic for this because flax is actually a weak phytoestrogen. And what I mean by that, and people get really uptight about phytoestrogen. So let's just breathe for a minute. A plant based estrogen or a phytoestrogen is weaker than your body's own estrogen. So it can help you in either estrogen problem. If you have too much estrogen on board, the weaker plant based estrogen is going to bind your estrogen receptor and block your own estrogen from sitting down and transcribing DNA. So it can act as a mild estrogen blocker. If you don't have enough estrogen on board, then that weak plant-based estrogen can sit in your estrogen receptor and very moderately blunt your hypoestrogenic symptoms. So phytoestrogens can be helpful in kind of either direction. So flax has the benefit of being a phytoestrogen. It can block if you have too much estrogen on board, and that's what's causing your breast pain. It also has the added benefit of being a great source of fiber. It's also a low carb, great source of fiber. So adding flax to your smoothie, cooking with flax, that can be a really great tool if you're noticing you're a little constipated and you're thinking that might be why your breasts are sore. A couple things about flax that are just a pain in the backside, but the truth, which is you really need to buy whole flaxseed and then grind it at time of use. So you can do this really easily. If you're throwing in a smoothie, the blender will grind it out for you. If you're going to bake or cook with it, you can either, again, use the blender or even use a coffee grinder to grind up your flax. But if you buy a really big bag of pre-ground flax, it's probably rancid by the time you get it home. It's been sitting on the shelf for too long. So I'd really encourage you to buy whole flax seed. You're shooting for like 30 grams of flax a day. That would be fantastic. Another common mistake that I actually think is dangerous, that I've seen, there are these very, very high dose iodine products on the market for breast pain. And it's important to understand that high dose iodine can affect your thyroid and cause hypothyroidism. So typically, when we're replacing iodine, we're shooting for 150 micrograms a day, maybe as high as 300 micrograms a day, but we are not exceeding that 300 micrograms a day, okay? We're not going for 10 times that amount, etc. I have had patients come in who destroyed their thyroid because they were using these over-the-counter products that were marketed at natural food stores that were going to fix their breast pain, or promoting breast health in other ways. And it took us 6+ months to get their thyroid back on board and to reset from that. So please don't take excessive amounts of iodine. 150, 300 micrograms is plenty. Okay. So what if you're like, okay, I don't have caffeine. That's not me. I'm not constipated. My weight hasn't changed, or I've just gotten fitted for bras. My bras fit well. I'm still having pain. What can be going on? So many of us in the perimenopause transition will have a peak in estrogen before we start to have a decline. And that's one of the things that makes perimenopause so much fun, is that you never know what kind of body you're going to wake up in. It changes. So particularly thinner women, we know this from the SWAN study, particularly thinner women are going to have this explosion of estrogen before the estrogen levels start to decline. And so some of these women will also have really heavier bleeding, heavier periods before their periods start getting irregular, passing a lot of clots. Their breasts may actually get a little bigger, kind of have that feeling in the breast that like they're pregnancy boobs. They're full of tissue, they're firm, they're a little bit tender or a lot bit tender. You don't want anyone to hug you or touch you. That's not an unusual situation. So if you're in that situation, there are a couple things that you can do that are really straightforward. One of them is borage oil. So borage oil is a gamma-linoleic acid. It's an anti-inflammatory fat. And typically you're trying to get in roughly 240 milligrams of gamma-linoleic acids a day. Borage oil you can buy at Whole Foods. I don't think it's going to hurt anybody, but it can provide a lot of relief fairly quickly, and you're just taking an anti-inflammatory fat. One other thing that you could think about is, if we're kind of going back to the liver, right? The liver detoxifies estrogen, you eliminate it through your stool, and you're like, hey, I'm not constipated. That's not the issue. You may want to think about, hey, how can I help my liver clear some of this estrogen? So I know that I'm absolutely no fun in so many ways, but this is a time to pause and say, hey, what's your alcohol content looking like? Because if your body's having a hard time detoxifying estrogen, if you're giving it a lot of alcohol, you are preventing the body from detoxifying the other things, including estrogen or whatever else our toxic world has dealt out. Moderating or eliminating alcohol is pretty low hanging fruit here. Other things that you can do is to eat broccoli sprouts. Broccoli sprouts have 500 times more sulforaphane than broccoli, and this is basically giving your estrogen a luggage tag to get out of the body. So you can grow your own broccoli sprouts. You can buy them at Whole Foods. Even Trader Joe's now has sprouts. You can put them in a wrap on a salad. You can throw them in smoothies. There's a seed company that makes little seed mats called Hamama, Hamama. And if you go under their microgreens section, you can just buy the refills of the broccoli sprout seed mats and grow them in a glass Pyrex dish on your counter. And it is not hard, and it is way cheaper than buying them at the store. I would shoot for, like, if you kind of measure out like a 4-inch square of sprouts a day, I think that would be fantastic. We talked about if you've had some weight changes, or even if you just haven't gotten fitted for bras in a while, making sure your bra fits correctly if your body's changed or if your bras are just getting stretched out and old. A lot of women are wearing a poorly fitted bra. The bra should support you from underneath your breast and should be in a straight line across the back of your kind of by your scapula. So you don't want it to be like an inverted V shape in the back. Please don't take these high dose over the counter iron supplements. You can inadvertently damage your thyroid very significantly. Please don't do that. Eliminating or moderating caffeine can really help. If you're having a hard time clearing estrogen, having excess alcohol is not helping you. If you're finding that you're constipated, adding flax can really help. You're shooting for 30 grams a day. You can always start with like 2 tablespoons and see if you can get up to 4 tablespoons a day. Buying whole flaxseed and then grinding it at time of use is going to preserve a lot of the phytonutrients in the flax. And then borage oil is an anti-inflammatory fat that I take if I have breast pain. I'd love to give a shout out to Tori Hudson. Tori Hudson is a naturopath out in California, and she has a supplement company called Botanica, and they make a really nice product called Breast Cycle Blend. So it has borage oil in it. It has some antioxidants in it. It has some DIM, which is another thing that we can take to clear estrogen from the liver. It's kind of my favorite product for breast pain, and it works really quickly for me. So if I'm having some of these issues, I like the Breast Cycle Blend from Botanica. And then again, just making sure you've got the basics covered. Are you getting your 25 grams of fiber a day? Are 10 of those grams soluble fiber? Making sure you're having regular bowel movements. So the good news is that breast pain usually doesn't mean breast cancer. That's fantastic. If you have a lump or a bump or something that's changed about the appearance of your breast, if you're having nipple inversion, if you're having bloody nipple discharge, all of those things need to get seen by a qualified healthcare provider immediately. Breast pain usually isn't something malignant. So that's good news. And hopefully you have some ideas on how to troubleshoot and get some relief. If it's a new bra, if it's finding a coffee alternative to your caffeine habit, if it's looking for that breast cycle blend from Botanica, maybe increasing your fiber and adding some flax to your diet. So I hope that helps, and you can move forward with less pain. Thanks for listening to Menopause Rescue. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast and it helps you create some time and space to make this the best half of your life. If you've enjoyed this content, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. This helps other listeners find this resource and rescue and restore their health. If you enjoyed this topic and want to learn more, check out our resource guide for this episode. If today's podcast resonated with you and you want to take a deeper dive, check out my educational resources. We offer basic membership, which is an archive of over 100 videos on menopausal topics ranging from bone health to libido. We add to this archive every month, so the resource becomes richer and richer over time. If you're looking for a menopause expert and live in North Carolina, take our free online class and see if we're a match for your needs. It's called Are We a Good Fit? And is a quick and easy way to learn more about our practice and what it has to offer. Hey, this is Dr. Watson. This is just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed, and any information you get from this podcast is considered educational only. You should make medical decisions with your healthcare provider. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice. Listeners should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition, and they should seek assistance from their healthcare professionals.